the woman that your grandfather found, he had to work half as hard, and she was twice as good as a woman today. And I think that's true. I think that women today aren't as great as they had been in the past, mostly because of promiscuity. It's been pounded into women's heads now that it's okay to be promiscuous, to sleep with a lot of men. It's inconsequential. It shouldn't matter. But we've seen, and I've heard Andrew talk about this too, but we've seen that women that have been with more guys have a lot more baggage, right? You're going to have to deal with more. He hurt me. He did this to me. That guy did that to me. You know, they just carry that shit around like a burlap bag of bricks. I always say that resentment and guilt are the two most negative emotions you can feel. One is towards somebody else. One is towards yourself. And what a lot of human beings like to do is they like to take these bricks and they write shit on it. He cheated on me. Throw that in the burlap bag. He hit me once. Throw that in the burlap bag. And they take this invisible bag and they throw it over their shoulder and they walk around with it. And all they have to do is put that fucking thing down and walk away from it. But they don't like to do that. I think humans like to carry that burlap bag with all those little bricks, all those heavy bricks that pile up. And, you know, with women and relationships, the more of that stuff they get, they don't deal with it. They don't reconcile, you know, a lot of those differences. So there's a lot of realities that you have to accept. And I think, you know, most of it gets dealt with reasonably well within guys that create red pill sort of content. I see guys that are out there that are clinical psychologists that say that they detox men from red pill content sort of thing. And then I listen to their conversations and I think to myself, you're fat. You're talking about things that don't make any sense. I would not want to trade my life for your life. No, thank you. So you see what I'm like? It's a large puzzle with hundreds of pieces. And I don't claim to have all the pieces in place, but I know that I've got a lot more pieces in place than most of the guys out there that claim to be experts.
Definitely. All right. Nice. I hear that. And I think in the West, you're doing as well as any man could. For me, I believe the solution, and this is what, you know, Tate and I have discussed a lot. And despite all the bad press, Tate is very insightful. And is also very caring. He takes care of, you know, the women that he's in a relationship with. But I think the answer, first and foremost, if you're looking to build a relationship that works, is you need to find women who have the same wants, expectations as you, and that lies in traditional values. Where do you find traditional values nowadays? Because let's face it, the lure of dopamine hits from putting your ass on Instagram, the lure of Tinder hookup culture, like it's hard to compete with. It has to be a society that still has religion in it. I don't think you'll find women who are wife material if they don't have some kind of religion in their life to make sure that they are living a disciplined life in the female perspective, which is not being promiscuous and not getting caught up in the attention that, let's face it, as a pretty girl, it's easy to get attention. You need something to hold you back from that. So I think finding a woman who is you know, looking for traditional values, but of course you need to have your money right. You need to be able to provide and protect. You have to be that masculine man. Finding a woman from a religious background with a strong, you know, religious family, and from there, I mean, I don't want to preach too much, but I think we talk about the red pill. What if we talked about the green pill? And that was all these guys, especially those who want to have traditional values marriages. Why not look at Islam as a potential solution? Because that is a framework with which both.
Is that what the green pill is? It's.
I think it is. Yeah, I saw a YouTube. I'd love to remember the guy's name. I saw a YouTube video a few weeks ago that mentioned that. I think it was the Cambridge Mosque. There was a speaker there, very eloquent man, speaking about the green pill, not in the context of relationships, but if you're looking for healthy relationships nowadays, it has to be traditional. Man is man, woman is woman. For men like us, at least, that's what we're looking for. For that sort of woman to be found, it has to be in a religious context. And again, the religion that has the most structure with which a man and a woman can both adhere to in order to be the best partners to each other is Islam. So I actually think the solution post red pill, and I'd encourage everyone to, you know, do your own research, make up your own mind, is to have relationships in the Islamic context, because that ensures that both parties, when practicing it earnestly, stick to the traditional values and be the best versions of partners that they can be. So I think the solution to red pill is the green pill and approaching relationships through the Islamic context. They actually
how does that
works?
Yeah, so let me put it to you this way. So how does that reconcile with the notion that you're going to have to be a bit of a player to get your head right around women, when the notion in Islam is to not exercise degeneracy, for example, and sleep around with a lot of women? Because unfortunately, the reality is today, I mean, I mean, if you live here in North America, if you want to get your head squared away on what women are all about, what they respond to, what they don't respond to, you're going to have to date a bunch of women. You know, you're going to have to dig through some dirt to find some gold, and maybe you do find gold, maybe you don't. But the point that I'm making is you're going to have some experiences. So how does that reconcile with Islam then?
And I don't view Western women as wife material, to be completely blunt, brother.
Yeah, I think, well, I don't disagree with you, man. They're very hard to find here, aren't they?
Yeah, I think if you're surrounded by other women who are liberal and by a culture that's, hey, you go girl, you sleep with as many men as you want, and this idea of chase hedonism and take drugs and all this stuff we see in the West, it's a godless society. Why would you expect women to be of virtuous nature if there's nothing holding them back? And why would you expect men to be good partners if there's nothing holding them to account to say, if you want to, in Islam, if you want to sleep with a woman, then you need to take care of her. That's, so the man too can't go around and play the field. And I think, yes, I see what you're saying in that to learn women and game and these things, it does help to do a dating phase. But if you've got a good, virtuous, religious woman, do you really need to wade through all of that filth that you find in the West? I don't necessarily think so. And my personal relationship is a testament to that, without going into too much detail. I really do believe if you want an ethical, positive, traditional values relationship, then relationships in the Islamic perspective have a lot of value to bring. I really do believe that.
I'm just sort of marinating on that for a moment because I have
The
some
green
thoughts.
pill.
Yeah. No, the green pill. There's certainly merit to it. I mean, I've talked to a lot of guys. You know this. I mean, I've done a lot of consults. A lot of them have been private. I've probably had well over 1,000 coaching calls by this point. And I've talked to a few guys that married traditionally conservative women from many different religions. In fact, Islam, from Hinduism, from Christianity, from Catholicism, Judaism, any of those. And a lot of them have come to North America from a lot of these countries, or they've, if it's not North America, it's another Western country like Germany or the UK or something like that. And they found that going through the divorce process, for example, the woman that they married is not the woman that they get divorced from. Okay. So the whole subscriptions to certain religious beliefs, if there's an opportunity to capitalize, because women are opportunistic by nature, let's be honest, right? If you take somebody from one country and you put them in another country and they're female and there's a way to opportunistically benefit from that new environment, that's how women are hardwired. And that's okay. They have to be hardwired that way to survive. They have to be hardwired that way for their children to survive, So they will take advantage of legislation, family law that would be advantageous for them to just abandon their religious beliefs, subscriptions, to maximize things like their hypergamy, for example. Another one of the things that I've noticed as well too is it doesn't matter how much game you have. You can have watertight game. You can be good at what you're at. The man that you are, the chasing of excellence. You have influence. You have the cars. You have people that look up to you. You're dressed well. You're physically fit. You're competent. You're not boring. All of that stuff. But you have to understand that women in general will always have a level of contempt, I believe. I want to run this up the flagpole and see what you do with this, because you've just done this with me, so I want to see what you say. It's been said that women treat men like men treat jobs. Is what I've heard. And what that means basically is when a man finds a good job, he doesn't look for ways to exit it. He doesn't look for ways to improve it. He doesn't want to replace it with a new job. He just surrenders himself to, like, this is good. This is where I'm at, right? So they say that women treat men like men treat jobs. So in theory, when a woman finds her hypergamous best option, she wakes up in the morning, she looks at the guy, this is the best that I can do. He's absolutely phenomenal. She'll still find some way to be contemptuous and invite a little bit of chaos into your life from time to time. Even when things are going well, they'll manufacture indignation and they'll cause a little bit of chaos in your life. And I've seen this, and I've been watching this, and I've been thinking to myself, all of this game stuff, all of this, good, but just understand that when you invite a woman into your life, and by the way, Jewel, I know men that have multiple women in their lives. They have multiple children with them. And I've asked them offline, I've said to them, I said, how do they all get along? And it's always the same answer. They fucking hate each other. They're at each other's throats. There's always problems coming up with it. You know, there's a certain degree of female nature that you've got to accept. There's some slippage, you know, if you know what I mean? I don't know. What do you think about all those?
I hear you, brother. I hear you. Now, we talked about the fact that women carry baggage around. Now, if we look into traditional relationships, and perhaps we talk about the dom-sub relationship, where the man is helping the woman regulate her emotions, could there be a scenario where the man has himself together and is empathetic enough and is enough of a leader to help a woman work through her daddy issues, which they all have, or the issues that she picked up during her formative years or from previous partners, perhaps, that leads to that creating drama? I don't think it's necessarily malicious. I don't think women create drama because they're nasty. I think they want drama because it's a form of emotion, and they're all about emotionality.
Correct.
I think a lot of them carry, and all humans carry, issues from their formative years, you know. And most of the time, at least for me, I think Eastern European women are the best, you know, loyal, long-term women to have as partners. A lot of the time in Eastern European countries, and again in many, you know, emerging market countries, the dad won't be around because he's out working, he's busy, or he's emotionally a bit absent. So there'll be a bit of a daddy issue thing there. With that traditional dynamic, that dom-sub, where the man is dominant and is leading the submissive woman, perhaps the onus is on the man to help her work through her trauma so she doesn't have that inclination to create drama. And I can tell you it is possible. It takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of empathy. It takes a lot of listening. You know, you need to be that guy who hears them and feels when their emotional state is off and talks, you know, what's wrong? Nothing's wrong. What's wrong? Nothing's wrong. Oh, this. You got to be that guy, which is a lot of work, and a lot of men don't do it. But I put it to you that it is possible to help a woman work through her trauma and to get rid of that inclination of drama and to have a drama-free existence, to have a harmonious existence. And it is possible to do that with multiple women as well. It just takes a man being together at the highest level. Being out of the West, I think, is essential. The legal system in the West really does endorse and incentivize the worst from women. It also means screening from, you know, women who are naturally submissive and want to have a traditional values man lead them. But you can create a reality where you have an abundance of loyalty and positivity in your relationships. I didn't used to have it. I was married for 9 years to a Western woman. Trust me, I've been there. I know what that's like. It's soul crushingly, just day to day depressing, I think would be the word. But you know, if you learn from that, you can go out and create your custom-made reality in terms of women. I don't think you can do it in the West, though, and I definitely don't think you can do it with Western women.
It's very difficult. I would agree with that. I want to ask you about red flags, because you seem like a wise man that understands how to vet women that bring potential chaos and baggage into your life. I have a chapter in my book, The Unplugged Alpha. There's 20 red flags in that book. I'm doing a first edition update. There's probably going to be 22 when I finish the updates. So there's a couple more that I'll be adding. If you haven't got it, by the way, you can get the free chapter from the book by just opting into my email list. But I want to hear from you. So red flags, like what do you look for when dealing with women about potentially inviting into your life on a long-term basis? Like, what do you want to stay away from?
Yep. So I'll focus on what I look for first, and then the red flags after. So first of all, as I said, low body count is important, simply because if a woman's gone and slept with a bunch of men, then she's not really taking care of herself. I want positive frequency people around me, people who take care of themselves. So how do you find a woman who hasn't been with 20 men by the age of 25? It has to be from a traditional values, good family, religious family. That's essential. Naturally submissive, wants the traditional dynamics. Again, if a woman wants her man to be a woman and they want that liberal equality, go do that. Mm-hmm. I have equal rights in terms of women, but I'm also a man and they're also a woman. And they want me to be that man and I want them to be that woman. So find a woman who wants those traditional values. And for me, another thing I think is important, try to avoid, generally speaking, women who grew up in big cities. You want women who grew up in a traditional way with their families without, thousands of men coming onto them walking down the streets. Cities are generally, even in the emerging markets, are a hub for more liberal thought, more hookup culture. So that village girl who's religious, comes from a good family, is naturally respectful, submissive, wants the traditional values, I think that's the best place to screen from. And for me, that would be Eastern Europe. And that's, I've talked about this with a lot of different men, and they all agree as well. In terms of red flags, I think the key one is how deeply has all this Western liberal programming affected them? Because as we know, feminism robs women of being fulfilled. If a woman wants to go into competition with a man and I'm not going to cook for a man, that's sexist, I'm not going to support him, well, then you're likely not going to be fulfilled in your life either. Again, show me a deeply fulfilled feminist. Show me a feminist who has fulfilling relationships. I think there's a direct correlation. I read a study about this between the more feminist a woman is and the more likely to consume hardcore violent pornography. Because they don't find that dominance. That, I mean, 50 Shades of Grey, most popular book of all time, at least the last few decades. Women want a man who is dominant, who is masculine, who can protect, who can provide, who can show them the mysteries of life, all these sorts of things. So how deeply has she subscribed to all this liberal thinking that is actually damaging for her was one thing I'd screen for. Any form of disloyalty or wanting to be the man or wanting to, I mean, any time her values in life don't match yours and her expectations don't match yours, get rid of it. And I think the key thing is for young men is listen to the red flags. Every man I know who's been through the divorce rape machine, if I'm allowed to say that, he knew there was red flags. He just didn't listen. I think young men today, or men who are looking to build a lasting, healthy relationship, what red flags are. Listen to them and act on them. No, she's different. No, she'll be okay. The amount of guys who just
I can change her, bro.
Yeah, that's it. Maybe, but is the worth the return? I don't know. It's brutal to see. I mean, even my when I was married for years, there was plenty of red flags there, but I didn't listen to them. So I think just listening to red flags is absolutely key. I think it's men
I mean, if you want to be in a position to choose, if you want to be in a position where you're spoiled for choice, you have to be a man that's worth the salt. You have to do the work. You have to have the influence. You have to be competent. You have to be interesting. You have to be funny. You have to have money. You have to be able to make money. You have to be able to solve problems. You have to have all those things. So it's like men live in, most men today live a life of very quiet, silent suffering and desperation. They just don't have a lot of options. And even if they do have the option to be with a woman, they don't do well with it. They're like guys like us in our marriages when we were probably engaged, setting up for the party, doing the reception, thinking everything will work out in the end because you take vows, you take these important vows and they're supposed to protect you. They're supposed to put you in a position of love into perpetuity, but it doesn't seem to work out that way, especially with the types of modern westernized types of women that you expose yourself to. I of course recognize that there are places in the world where women haven't been polluted in that sense, where their minds haven't been indoctrinated into these belief systems, where they haven't shared their body with dozens and dozens of men. I mean, the data on it is conclusive. I mean, when you look at the Teachman study, it's always the same thing that you can go back to. If a woman's been with more than one guy, she's a worse choice than a virgin. You keep going down the scale, and they stop collecting the data after 20. And 20 is like, that's not even high anymore.
Yeah, isn't it? Wow. Isn't it sad that modern day culture encourages women to do something that's so inherently damaging for them? It really is sad. I don't blame Western women for being in the state they're in. The culture, it comes at you from every angle. It comes from your friends, from Netflix, from your Instagram. You go, girl, chase whatever hedonism you want, do whatever you want. But before you know it, you've disqualified yourself from being able to have a healthy, positive relationship with a man who respects you. And I mean, a man's main focus in life is his mission. As I've seen it, a woman's main focus and what leads to fulfillment is getting into a relationship with a man she respects. And if you've had that much intimacy with strangers and you've been that indoctrinated with feminism, you can't respect a man. So how are you gonna be fulfilled as a woman if you don't respect any men? Yeah. I don't see it working. It's a crying shame.
If you want evidence of this, and all you have to do is turn on YouTube or even any social media, and you'll see these clips show up all the time with podcasters sitting with a table filled with women. It's the fastest growing segment, right? Like you see this everywhere now, and they try to have conversations with the women about these notions and the ideas of feminism, promiscuity, gender roles like blue jobs, pink jobs, sort of things, and they never get it. It's like talking to a brick wall. They never get it. And these guys and gals that are running these shows, they try to hold these women accountable. They'll never be accountable. They'll never change their mindset. And this is what you're dealing with in, the West. It's bizarre, isn't it?
Yeah, I guess the solution, I mean, if I was a guy in my 20s and I was in the West and I was faced with the vast majority of women not wanting what I want, which is traditional, healthy relationship, I would focus on brotherhood. I mean, I know you've got a men's community. Obviously, I'm a big, proponent of, and I put a lot of energy into Tate's war room. I'd get that circle of brothers around me, because we're not meant to be lone wolves. We're meant to be pack animals. We're meant to have supportive brothers around us. I get my
Yeah,
money
that
right.
whole Sigma
Get out.
male thing is completely bizarre to me, where they, oh, just be a lone wolf. Like, look, I get the world looks like shit to a lot of people living in the West, and the romantic ideal of living in a cabin in the woods might seem like a good one, and being a Sigma male, the lone wolf. But you're right. And I've said this many times too. You need a tribe of brothers. You need a brotherhood. The way of men is the way of the gang. That's the way that we've
We are
been designed
tribal.
to operate. You have to surround yourself with competent men that are going to test you, that you're also going to be holding accountable. And if they cannot be tested and they will not be held accountable, you must remove them. Sorry, man, I didn't mean to jump in there, but
Exactly.
I get so passionate about those ideas.
Well, it's a hugely valuable thing. And as I get older, I realize how important brotherhood is. And Tate speaks to this all the time. That's part of the reason why the council machines come after him. Telling men, hey, you have the right to reject all that modern rubbish, that you should be, effeminate, and you should allow women to walk all over you. Telling Western men, go out and find that tribe, find that likely, the brotherhood with the same beliefs and views and drive as you. Get your money right, and then perhaps get out of the West and go to a country that has the same values as you, where you can have healthy relationships. I think while it's a very positive message for men, the powers that be don't really want Western men thinking like that. Otherwise, you'd have an uprising. If all of the men of the West realized, hang on a sec, the way relationships have been impacted makes it pretty much impossible to have a healthy relationship. I'm going to work with my brothers that I trust, my tribe, to get my money right and get out of the West. That could become a problem. And I think it's conceptualized in that concept of passport bros. If you can find it. It's guys saying, you know what, I want to go to a place where women still want a man to be a man, and they are still a woman. And I don't want to mess around with all this liberal, confused take on relationships. And I really do think that's the answer. If you're a young man and you're looking for a healthy relationship, get brothers around you, build businesses, win together, then get out of the West and go to a country where traditional values and traditional relationships are still the norm. They do exist. Places like Eastern Europe, places like Asia, anywhere where there's a country with religion, if you subscribe to that religion, is a fantastic choice to find a good, loving, supportive, traditional values woman. I wouldn't bother trying to do it in the West. Get your money right and get out. I see no other move on the chessboard.
And that is a important distinction that most passport bros overlook, is they think, well, if I just leave, or if I just temporarily leave Illinois, Wisconsin, or whatever city they're in, and they go to an Eastern European country and they find a beautiful woman and then bring her back, and they work at a post office living in their mother's basement, that's not enough. You have to do the work on yourself, because you will get destroyed by those women as well.
Exactly. A little saying I want to share. So in this Soviet community, there's a saying, I don't know how to say it in Russian, but a man should be slightly more attractive than a monkey. And what they're referring to there is, as a man, it's your duty to be capable. No one cares what you look like. If you've got a nice sense of humor, your job is to be capable. Now, some people might try to say that Soviet women are gold diggers. Nope. They say, I want my man to look after me and to be a man. And then I'll look after him in the way a woman looks after a man. And so these traditional values, this idea of you need to be capable, there's an increased burden of responsibility. No Soviet girl is going to sleep with you because you made her laugh. No traditional values, religious Eastern European woman is going to sleep with you just because you're handsome. You need to demonstrate that you have it together enough as a man to properly take care of her, and by extension, her family. And then she will give you her intimacy, and you can, create a life together where you are mutually supportive and everybody wins. It's so funny, the amount of people who try to say that Eastern European women are gold diggers. So let me get this straight. She expects you to look after her financially, but she'll cook for you, she'll support you, she'll take care of you if you're sick. She wouldn't dream of talking to another man. She will give you undying energy and love and feminine care. All right, good. Keep gold digging. I'd much rather that than some Western woman who's like, no, I don't need no man, and doesn't give you anything, but still spends your money anyway. Let's be real. I'm all for traditional values, man.
Like I said, it's a big puzzle with hundreds of pieces, and you need to get them all checked out right. Got to start wrapping up. So I want to get through these super chats real quick, and then we'll sort of wrap up. Excuse me. No, there's never a call in on the Playing to Win show. That's only on the Unplugged Alpha, on the Unplugged Alpha podcast channel. So I'll be live tonight at 8:00. You guys can ask whatever questions you want there. We already dealt with the real world thing. For the future of that, there was another one here. Hey, brothers, what advice do you guys have about building a team in the tech world without relying on non-disclosure agreements and meeting trustworthy people ahead of time? Trust is earned, but as my business expands, it's about finding the right team. So that's interesting. That's a human resource question. I think we should both answer that. So I'll let you go first, man. Like, what do you think?
I mean, look, you can try and build a network yourself, or you can tap into communities that exist. Again, I know, Rich, you have one. Obviously, I'm involved in Tate's War Room. The amount of solid tech guys we have inside, you have literally hundreds. Find a community that exists, that's being run by men who you can respect, and let that filter of good men work for you. Trying to set up a brotherhood yourself is a slow process. I go and find one you can trust. And, NDAs, all these sorts of things, you need to find the right character of man. You're not going to find that without joining some kind of brotherhood, such as that led by Rich or by Andrew Tate.
NDAs don't have a lot of value anymore. I get why people want them signed, but they're not really that valuable. So I'm more of the mind, I guess maybe it's because I'm a little bit older now, but I'm more of the mind that I tend to avoid staying away from businesses that require a lot of human resources. I have the School of Entrepreneurship, which is something I open for enrollment every quarter. Usually, I think I'll have it open again May 1st. So if you're on my email list on this thing below on the red flags, you'll get notified there first. So I prefer to set up businesses that are location independent. You can pick them up and move them at any time. You have a low requirement for human resources and networking. People will find a way when you invite them into your business, your life, and your romance, stuff like that, of letting you down from time to time. I think the brotherhood's a very good angle to sort of establish and weed out, or to separate the wheat from the chaff. If you cross brothers in a membership community, you'll be out very, very quickly. If you mislead people, you'll be out very quickly. If you double cross, you know what I'm saying, right? So I think any one of those types of organizations, whether it's Entrepreneurs Org, War Room, my own community, whatever happen you see a good fit with, and if you need people, that's a good place to start. Just make sure that there's competent people in there and that they're actually doing stuff. Hold them accountable. If they're just masturbators, if they're just talking, if they're just they're not acting, they're not doing anything with the time, then that's a pretty good indicator that you're dealing with the wrong group or the wrong people anyway. Let's see what else we got in here that might have popped up. I think that's everything. Yeah, that's it. Closing thoughts, Jewel. What is it that you wish people, or let's do it this way. Closing thoughts from this regard. Assuming that you would listen as a young man to a conversation with you, if you go back in a time machine and talk to your younger self at 20, let's say, what advice would you give to the young men out there, inclusive of yourself, to do differently?
I think the key thing that I would say is, young men, you have the right to be selectively selfish with your time, with who you let into your life, with what you focus on. There are so many different influences trying to program you to be a certain way, which isn't in your best interest, to be that plow horse, to be that obedient sheep. If you feel you're the only one in your social circles who looks at the world differently, and if you feel you want to live a different life, that's okay. I mean, if I just hung out with the crowd in Australia and just lived that life, I'd still be in Australia. Instead, I've seen 90 countries and I've got an incredible reality and have incredible brothers. The Tates are my brothers. I have the opportunity to speak to people like you, Rich. If I just followed what society wanted for me, I wouldn't have any of the experiences or the achievements that I've got. So young men, be selfish, choose your own path, your own custom-made reality, and get angry. If you want to change your situation, be angry about it. That's a good thing, as Tate often says. Channel that into being the man you want to be and going and building that custom-made reality. That's probably going to involve getting your money right and getting out of the West. Specialize in a field that's in demand. As you've just said, Rich, ideally you can be location independent. Get out of the West, find your tribe, live life on your terms. I think young men aren't told enough that is possible. And again, that ties into the power of Andrew Tate. He role models that. He grew up in Luton, England, a welfare kid, and now, lives, the dream, so to speak. So that'd be my key message. Men should be selectively selfish and should consciously choose their own belief systems and goals and live true to them. Completely reject everything that society tells you. Even if you're the only one in your social circles who views the world that way, you have the right to do that.
I think that's good advice, to put yourself first. It's difficult to convince young men to do that because they've been programmed their entire youth with every mechanism out there, from government to media to Hollywood to sitcoms to advertisers to some cultures and religion. Sacrifice yourself, become less so she can become more. All of those narratives are things that you need to do away with and leave behind, because look, at some point, again, a lot of people watching this are going to be like, yes, whatever, fine. But at some point, you've got to come to the realization that ideas, beliefs that you've held true, that you've ego invested in, are probably not serving you, and you have to update those beliefs. That's how you improve as a man. You have to update beliefs that you subscribe to that don't serve you, that don't align with your goals. One of the questions that one of my great mentors would often ask you when you would get into conversations is after you're done saying something or rationalizing. And I've often said men love to complicate their lives and justify why. So it's, here's my thing, here's my situation. You'll see this all the time when people call into my shows, here's my problem. And then they'll have like some justifications to why they have that problem. And that's what men like to do: complicate life, justify why. Ask yourself, or ask friends of yours or brothers of yours, how's that working out for you? And then ask them again once they try to explain it. Okay, and how's that working out for you? And then you'll get to the root of the problem, by just having these conversations and holding each other accountable and diving into these sorts of topics. Because like you said, Jewel, if you want to improve yourself as a man, especially if you're a young man, it can be done very, very quickly and easily. But you have to surrender to certain realities of the world that aren't serving you, will not serve you going forward, and leave them behind. And then you just walk away from them. So I know that you have in the past tried to remain mostly anon. Do you want people to find you on social media?
Yeah, I mean, I'm loud now. I'm doxed. So the Sartorial Shoot on Instagram is where I'm most active. A lot of it's, just materialistic fun, but again, the idea is role modeling what's possible, and I do try and throw some wisdom out there as well. The one thing I'd like to say, mate, just to round this out, thank you. Post my divorce, I was in a pretty dark place. I didn't have any brothers around me. It was your voice and your videos back when you were doing them driving around that really helped me stay positive, stay focused when I had the whole world coming after me. A man who goes through a divorce, his friends will think he's a bad guy, kids will think you're a bad guy, society will come at you questioning what you're doing. It was your words who empowered me to stay true to what I knew, which was, hey, I deserve a better reality than a woman who's exploiting me. I deserve to have love and support from women. And you really, man, it was your voice that really helped me get through a very dark time. So thank you. And let me host you in Dubai, man. Least I could do. Get over here, I'll show you the best of the city.
I appreciate that, Jewel. Thank you so much. You guys have a good day. Leave a comment below and hit the like button. And you can go ahead and find Jewel on Instagram. It's the best place to check him out. See you guys.